Most of the time, we associate discipline with suffering and with things that we don't want to do. We've turned that into something that automatically means that you will suffer in the short term in order to get that benefit in the long term. And that's not necessarily true. Welcome to the Productive Introvert Community Podcast, helping ambitious introverts who feel deep down that they can add more value to the world to really thrive in their work. I'm Mariela Franker, and I'll be sharing what I'm learning as an introverted entrepreneur, a natural productivity coach, and a mom while I build my business online and take care of my family and myself. In this podcast, you'll learn the mindset and the practical steps to naturally increase the impact of your work while making space for your unique strengths as an introvert. Hi, it's Mariela. So this week I wanted to talk to you about discipline. I know my take on discipline is a little bit different. And I'm really interested to hear your thoughts, what this episode brought up for you. Because I hear my clients say all the time, I'm not disciplined enough, or I wish I had more discipline. Usually we'll be talking about something that's hard for them at that moment and that they feel stuck with somehow. Sometimes it's about getting started with something or following through on a project, They might not know how to approach something, and then it feels like this huge mountain in front of you, right? And some of my clients, they get stuck in this research mode, where this analysis paralysis situation where you're captured by something and it's exciting, but then you keep reading and reading about it, maybe watching YouTube videos, trying to learn everything that you can, books, articles, everything. But you never actually take this step to put out anything about it yourself. And I am intimately familiar with the analysis paralysis myself. So total recognition. I recognize that not just in my clients, but also in myself. This is something that's very, very common. A lot of people struggle with these types of things. And I work mostly with introverted solopreneurs, right? As you probably know. If this is your first time listening, you may not know that. But especially introverts, we sometimes feel like we get stuck overthinking, which kind of overlaps with this research mode of going over something over and over in your head and kind of staying there idle and beating yourself up about it because you really just want to move, you want to make progress, you want to create something or connect with someone, do something about it. But the funny thing is that when I talk to my clients about things that they naturally excel at, they turn out to be very disciplined at those things. Like they'll spend hours and hours learning how to crochet or how to knit, or they'll keep expanding and expanding on a topic until they have this really extensive and complete picture of what is happening in a certain field, so that they can, for example, write an article about that, or just because it's their personal interest. So with things like that they're naturally interested in, they're very disciplined. But if you ask them outright, they'll say, oh no, I'm not disciplined. Like I can't even manage to get my newsletter out on time every week. I'm like, okay. So it's really interesting, that contrast that we have in our own minds and the idea of what the word discipline means. So let's talk about that a little bit. First, let me ask you, what comes up for you when you hear the word discipline? And I'll give you a second to think about that. The first thing that pops into my mind, regrettably, is to discipline, which basically means to punish, right? When most people hear that word discipline, they think of something that's hard. We automatically think of something, oh, it's hard. It's something that I'm being forced to do, or something that I have to force myself to do. All these words: have to, force, should, difficult. And I looked up the word discipline on Google, the dictionary definition, just now. And it said, the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior using punishment to correct disobedience. Yikes. I mean, it's no wonder we don't have positive associations with that word, right? I mean, listen to that. And there lies the problem, because we've all learned that you need to be disciplined. You need to have discipline if you want to achieve anything, if you want to be successful, if you want to have any quality of life, basically. You need to do things that you don't like to do. At the same time, a lot of people feel that they want that. A lot of my clients say, oh, I wish I were more disciplined. I wish I had that. Like almost like they need to become a different person in order for that to become a reality. So there is this tension there of what we think discipline is and what we actually want in our lives. So most of the time we associate discipline with suffering and with things that we don't want to do, But really, the idea of discipline, so letting go of that definition for a second, that clearly has the word punishment in there, and letting go of what we've learned about discipline, letting go of all of that for a minute. What is the idea of discipline, actually? The idea of it is really one of self-control, in my opinion. It's the idea that you have the self-control to weigh short-term gains and long-term gains and to make a decision there that will have a positive impact on your life, also on the long term. But we've turned that into something that automatically means that you will suffer in the short term in order to get that benefit in the long term. And that's not necessarily true. Just think of the examples that we just talked about. Like that one example of one of my clients, that she liked to knit in her free time. And she had her knitting items in a bag all together. She prepared well. She had them all ready. And then she'd take it out in the evenings and just do a bit of knitting. And it was her way to relax after a day at work. And she would do that night after night after night, which was amazing for her, right? It really gave her that sense of peace and a sense of joy, doing something for herself. Now imagine, like, maybe you don't like knitting, right? If I asked you to do that night after night after night, that would probably be your definition of hell, okay? That would be suffering in a very pure form. But because she loved it, she had no problem at all doing that night after night. Something that you might even say she was very disciplined at doing. What we've seen when people do things that they naturally excel at, that space that we call your natural advantage space. In those moments, things feel really easy, and they have no problem at all being disciplined in those areas. And they do it all the time. Like, you're probably doing it all the time as well, except it's usually like incidentally. You've probably noticed these moments when things feel really easy, but it's usually like a short period of time, and then something else comes in. But when you connect with those moments, those things that feel really easy to you, you feel like you don't even need to be disciplined. Most introverts that I work with, they describe it like it happens automatically. Usually they're creating something like that knit work, for example, or it might be a video that you're editing, or it might be a painting, or it might be an article that they're writing. They describe it as something that just happens on its own. It's like that thing creates itself, and there's no discipline required. Well, I was talking with my mentor, Marluz, about this the other day, and she put it in a really interesting way, really nicely. she said it's the things that we usually experience as guilty pleasures. Those are the things that we need to do more of. Those are the things where our natural advantage lies, and often where we find clues to what we're really meant to do. Some of the introverts that I work with, they come to me asking about their purpose. They don't know what their purpose is. And we often find really strong clues to answer those type of questions within these things that they experience as their guilty pleasures. And my mentor, she said, if anything, we should become more disciplined at giving into those types of guilty pleasures more often. Like giving ourselves permission to give into the things that we find this natural sense of peace and accomplishment and joy in, and that get us into that natural flow. I want to end today with that question again. Like, what do you think when you hear me say this about discipline? Do you think, like, Mariela, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard? Let me know. I would be really interested to hear your thoughts on that. Or do you somewhere feel that would be a really intriguing possibility for you? Let me know also. I'd love to talk about it. You can connect with me through my website at thefrankermessage.com/contact, or send me a message on LinkedIn. I'm there at Mariela Franker. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and let's talk again next week. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Productive Introvert Community Podcast. If you're an introverted entrepreneur and you're ready to thrive in your own way, then connect with me on thefrankermessage.com/contact.